So I'm not sure if we should wait for another 2 3 minutes. We're just 44 people in the class. I know we have over 1,000 people, so I don't know what is happening today. Just to confirm, please, admin Awal, can you hear me? Or anyone in the chat, if you can hear me, let me know. If it is okay. Okay, but Awal, can you hear me? Just to make sure. Okay, some people have already answered. That's great. So we don't have any technical issues today. It's okay. So we can start in the next, let's say, 3 minutes. I'm told that physical students are already there. So if physical students can leave their home and come to class, why can't you just join online from the comfort of your room? Okay. So, someone is saying voice is not audible. I don't know. Today I'm not using my mic because it was a problem last time. Please, if it's not audible, check your connection. Ubama, check your connection, please. I think you're the only one complaining. It might not be from the technical team or myself. Check your connection, please. Okay. Audible but not clear. Well, please, can you confirm what the issue is? It's not from me. Before we start, please. Everything is as perfect as last time. I have high def internal built microphone. Okay. Is it better now? Voice is clear. Okay. I think many people are saying voice is okay, but so that we start. I think the other issue we normally have, I will just start sharing my screen before it becomes an issue like last time. Ah, got it. So I think we can start. What we did from last week was looking at secure networks, some network threats, how to mitigate some threats. Um, Please, I will remind me at the end of this class to send a document also for you on step-by-step ways that you can set up your lab. This lab, I want us to do it now or within this next few weeks before week 4, then we will do the lab session. So you have like 2.5 weeks to at least try to set it up by yourself. It's going to take you less than a few minutes, but you should have enough time to set it up. So please remind me, I forgot actually to send this document. Because today we're going to be looking at AAA, especially for those that have networking background. The reason is because we're looking at network security, you need to have that networking background. Uh, like I always say, you need to know um, a thief normally, for example, normally needs to study how, for example, an organization works or the house is secured basically before he breaks into it normally. So you need to know how to pick locks and change locks. You need to know how to bypass burglary proof, how to do some wayo for the gate man, all those things. So it's a background that definitely you need if you're going to go into cybersecurity. You can't just jump into the deep end cybersecurity without knowing some few background things. So wherever you choose to study in terms of cybersecurity, whether it's cryptography, which you need some mathematical background, whether it's digital forensics, whether it's uh, mainstream cybersecurity or GRC, you still need the networking background. Actually. It's one of the most important aspects. So I normally advise people to study at least software engineering or computer science for their degree if they are to branch out to cybersecurity later on. I mean, when you look at it, just look ahead at most of the most successful companies, ranging from software to uh, endpoint companies like Kaspersky. Most of them come from software engineering, computer science background. Then they will branch into cybersecurity. So that's why we have to look at this. It's going to be very boring for most people. This is quite theoretical, but I try to use some diagrams in order to explain. So because we don't have, I have narrowed down the focus to just the major areas. Like I said, it's going to be quite fast paced because of the design of the program. So, and I'm going to be giving you the material. So most of them I have to explain to guide you in order for you to understand the major principles. But for you to, you have to read through again, go over it double, triple, for you to truly grasp everything. So just one time, uh, me explaining might not be enough for some people. That's why I normally share my slides with everybody. That brings me to the topic of slides. I don't understand why some students are still messaging me to send them the link and stuff. I have posted it. If you have issues with your dashboard, you need to go to the Telegram channel. There are people in charge of that. Send emails to them, please. Whether attendance link, whatever it is, people keep on disturbing us. Attendance link, no, my dashboard is not showing. All these are technical administrative stuff. So you cannot be asking me. You need. I have posted the class code. You need to use it to join the course. Then you'll be able to see the things that we post in the dashboard. Now I'm moving away, especially for my own course. I'm not posting clickable links. So please, I'm going to mention this once. I'm not posting clickable links. It's for you to copy the links that I post. It can be Google Drive, it can be Google Forms. Copy it and paste it in your browser. Why is that so difficult? No, you prefer somebody to send you link directly that you just click and click it. Why can't you copy it? I think I need to give you an assignment on the dangers of clickable links. We're still using them, but I'm trying to at least reduce the usage. So physical students cannot hear me very well. I don't know. Many people have said that it has improved. So you need to check your login and your settings of the speaker, maybe. Check the settings of your speaker. If you are using laptop speaker, connect it to bigger speaker or smart board, please. I will. So I think without wasting much time, you can go ahead to start because, like I said, this is very unlike my classes. It's going to be very theoretical. So, but I tried as much as possible to include a lot of diagrams for you too. So, what is AAA? AAA is just authentication, authorization, and accounting. So, normally within a network, you need to have all these three configured in order to secure your network because this module is about network security. So, we'll start by looking at basic things about AAA characteristics, which is the accounting authentication and authorization. We look at what it does on the server when it's configured and how you're going to basics of how to configure it. I mean, all these things, because the configuration, you have the manual on many websites you have, but I will just show you the basics and the main characteristics and the main things that you need to know in order to help you understand what you're configuring. So, what is actually authentication without AAA? So, all these three attributes of AAA actually depend on each. So that's basically it. What it does is from the screen, you log in, it will take you to the internet and give you access to the internal network. So, but if you just have only authentication, what does it do? For example, if you design your network or a particular system with only authentication, of course, it doesn't give you access to accountability. So that means if I have your password, I'll just log in with it and it will recognize me as you. That is where accountability comes. Yes. So I can just gain entry into the device and then I can alter any configuration, for example, as an admin in your network. Once I have your password, it's just for me to just log in to your layer 3 or layer 2 switch, change whatever IP addresses or any other configurations mainly that are within your network. That is what hackers do once they gain, especially root access or admin access into. Somebody is saying sound is off. Sound is on. Saying it is back now. I'm not sure if it is me or from somebody. What was I saying before we were interrupted? Okay, so things to avoid here is the use of a secure shell, which, of course, for hackers, they use it and abuse it. It's just a secure form of remote access. So instead of me just putting into using a putty into your network shell, for you to be open, you have to authenticate an account for the person. Sometimes this is where the application of multi-factor authentication comes in. So it requires both your username and password, and that secure shell communicates end-to-end encryption for everybody. So you the login and at the end of your access as well. So as I mentioned earlier, the three components of AAA. Authentication is what I just explained right now. Now the difference between authentication and authorization is after. So after you authenticate with your username and password, authorization services now determine which resources, so the level of access that you will have. If you authenticate as a normal staff or a normal user, for example, into the network, you're not going to be allowed to change somebody's IP address or to shut down some services for other users and the rest. This is where authorization comes in. So For example, if you're a user named student, you cannot have access to the server itself. So it's just for you to use the resources to the access that you have been assigned to. You cannot do what the host can do or the admin or the super admin can do. That is the difference between authentication and authorization. It's very key to understand this. Many people conflate the two and use them. Okay, authorization is just for you to have access to the username and password. That's it. Now, after these two key aspects, uh, there is the accounting and auditing that you will have. So this accounting auditing basically records what the user does. So you logged in at this moment as who to record it at this time. So what did you do? You click on this, you click on this, you downloaded this, you copied this, you changed this from this, you changed the IP address from 192.168.1.1 to 198.1.2. After that, you were there and logged in for, let's say, 20, 15 minutes. You log into the secure shell to have access to another VM or another server. So the accounting origin keeps track of everything that the user does. So you see, both authentication and authorization is used to have access. Now, the authorization records whatever you do within that particular access. So that is why it's important to understand this particular concept. So um, in terms of the AAA, of course, a remote client establish a connection, as in the diagram. So a remote client establishes a connection with the router. Then the router now prompts the user, the username and password, and then the router authenticates the username and password. So step one, two, and three, that is what it does. Now, this is just for local authentication. What if you want to access it as access the server itself? So of course, you will now establish a connection with your local router. Now, your AAA router will now prompt for the username and password, just like the local one. And then it adds an extra step, which is the difference between the local and the server-based authentication. So the router now authenticates your username and password using the AAA server. Now, afterwards, the user is provided access to the network-based information that he requires. So you see, there's an extra layer in terms of differentiating between the local and the server-based access. Yes. So that is for authorization. Just explain it in graphical forms. Is the same thing that I've said. So after successfully logging in, what do you do now? You now have access to the router, basically. So the router now communicates directly with the AAA server for the request, and then it replies with the resources that you require based on what you are granted access to. This is very important. So there are different types of accounting information, like I said. The network accounting, connection accounting. Network accounting means what are the resources that you've used, your IP address, your open ports that you are leveraging on. Your connection accounting is when did you connect? What resources did you use? Do you use SSH to connect? Do you connect over TCP/IP and the rest? System accounting are the details of these particular tools that I've mentioned earlier. Now, the command accounting is okay, you click on this, you send a command to reset something. No, you typed in a command to the router to actually block a particular service and the rest. So, in configuring this, actually, it has four very simple steps that you're going to do. These steps are actually included in the practical at the end of the class. So, for you, as similar method that you're going to be using for logic command, it just has one exception in this case. So you just have to configure your AAA services in order to authenticate, especially one person, the admin. So after you are in as an admin, you can now add the username and passwords for the local router database. Now this is going to be used basically for the users that need admin access only. So you can, so for those that actually need admin access, So people are saying my sound is breaking. I don't know. I have a very fast network here. I don't know. If I were in Nigeria, I would say maybe it's network problem. But maybe I'll bring my laptop closer. I think because I have a 10 GPS, 10 Gbps upload and download. So I'm not sure we have usually have. Some people are saying it's clear, but I will just let me know if it's not clear again. I will adjust, please, so that everybody can hear. Yeah, maybe it's from my mic. Audio is not clear. Sound is clear. Clear now. Sound is okay. Network is clear. I don't know which one to believe. Well, please let me know. Especially, I think if the physical students can hear me now, just let me know so that I can continue. Someone is saying slide is not clear. So that is not my from my side actually. I know say about TV, AAA doesn't mean authenticate administrative others. No. Please, you joined late. Maybe you have to go through the notes again. Okay, where was I? I think before we were interrupted. Awal, please let me know so that I can continue. I'm waiting for your response. Many people are saying network is clear from their side. Nothing. Okay, I can continue then. So, ah, so now we've started reaching the aspects of you actually logging into, for example, like I said last week, this particular course is with one of our partners. So we're going to be using Cisco switches or routers in order to perform, for example, with the use of packet tracer, which is also free that you can practice. I think worldwide Cisco is the most used type of switch and routers all over. So it's fair to say if you understand all these security configurations that normally people do, you will be able to apply it anywhere, any type of switch, also anywhere. So um, firstly, you have to log in. This is what the command says. You have to type in AAA authentication login and you put in your username and the specific method. Now, the specific method, the main aim why we have it as method 4 there is because it actually identifies the list of methods inside the AAA authentication process, which in turn will now query the given sequence. At least one method has to be specified. Now, you can put up to 4 methods, but actually it comes by default the types of methods that are going to be used for the authentication process. So you have different authentication aspects that you can use. Uh, I would like to say if you use AAA authentication login by default, which is okay. If you want to enable, the command enable means to use enable password for authentication. If you use local, means you're going to be using those that are stored within the local database for authentication. Uh, and then if you add the dash case to the local, it's going to be sensitive to the cases, whether it's uppercase or lowercase caps letter. Now, if you also have a radius server that is within your network, now you have to specify that using the group radius. And the TACAX plus servers, also if you have it, you have to list it into the command. Somebody saying write up is not readable. Please, Awal, can you solve that issue? Maybe it's from StreamYard. Maybe you reduce my video size. because we don't want to leave many people. If the majority can see, then it's fine. Okay, I will just continue as we are working on that because we don't have much. We have a lot to cover basically. And permit me, and I apologize because we have to be fast. Those aspects that you have missed, you can go through them and read over. That's why I'm going through only the major aspects. Please. Now we're starting to see a lot of commands in terms of the configuration of your router. So, or any device to be specific. So actually, if you want to be really flexible, different methods can be applied to different interfaces, especially when you want to log into the AAA authentication login site. So if you have a group name, like for example, let's say all students need to have a specific name, then I will do a command set list name command. And then all your names will be stored in that particular database that I will now be able to call so that everybody that logs in to have access to that resource will have access to that. So this is what we did actually in the screenshot below. We just used the username junior admin, which was assigned. We specified which algorithm that we want. And then the script is going to be strong password for the secret. Secret here means password when you're doing your configurations, basically. Now, the next step is for you to log in. But before that, you have to also specify, like we said earlier, I will go back. We have a local case, if you can see, which is case sensitive. So we want to add that too into what we want. And we want to apply that to the SSH login. So if you want to log in remotely and securely via an encrypted method, you will use the local case also, which will enable the case sensitivity. So if you have capital S or strong S, as you can see, our spelling of strong password is, or stronger password is STR0NG5R. So you can see how we combine the alphanumeric aspects and also case sensitivity as well. So this is just what we are doing. So don't worry, you don't have to cram all these things. Yes, please. People are telling me to send the slides. I've sent the slides last week. I will send the slides again this week. Every week, we're going to have them. There is no point, I want to make clear is there is no point in cramming the commands. The commands are available online, so many. You just have to understand how to use them. So you can just copy and use what is online to use it in your own network if you're applying it. You can't just be doing copy and paste because they are there online, because you will have many problems. You have to just understand what is happening. No need to cram any command. You just apply what is there to your specific system. So when you're almost done with fine-tuning the authentication configuration, all you need to put is, for hackers normally, why we put this particular max fail is to prevent hackers from being able to log in and be guessing and guessing. If you remember from your bank, if you're logging into your bank account, it will tell you that you have 3 more attempts. If not, your account will be locked. So, because it measures the number of unsuccessful attempts. This is to prevent hackers from actually just guessing, okay, I'll use your birth date, no, I'll use the name of your wife, no, I'll use the name of your children, I'll use, and then once it's the third time, it will actually lock. Some people are complaining that the screen is not showing as they remove the uploader. I don't know if that's the case. So the same is being applied in your server-based AAA implementations. In this case, like I said earlier, you have an extra step. Okay, well, I've seen your message. So it's basically showing just an extra step that is being added in order to give you access from the router that you have access to the server. So Uh, it may also work with many external databases that you have, including ADs. I don't know if you know ADs, which are Active Directories, and also LDAP. LDAP basically is just lightweight directory access protocol that we normally use in the configurations of our networks for user access. So these databases are actually that are being used for server-based AAA implementations. Um, Store user account information and password. Now, in turn, these basically allow you for central administration of all user accounts. I will keep giving you examples of, let's say we have, currently we have about 700 and something active students in the cybersecurity aspect. So I can combine everybody's username and password and add it to that particular server for authentication, basically. So we normally use several servers for redundancy in case one fails for one reason or the other. That is why we have three different AAA servers. So, like I mentioned, other protocols like TAGAX Plus and Radius are both protocols that are used for authentication, just to make sure that who is logging in is the same person. So there are specific differences between these two. Basically, if you know the definitions of both radios and the TAGAX Plus, um, for the radios servers, which are normally and more commonly used, it combines, just like I said, authentication and authorization, but separates accounting to allow, it allows actually less flexibility implementation. But in terms of TAGAX, it combines, it separates both the AAA architecture to the modality in the security implementation. Now, what I'm trying to say here is the way it differentiates between the radio server and the authentication server, it's in terms of its modularity. So one combines authorization but separates accounting, while the TACAX congregates everything in one place. Okay, so the reason why also radio servers are commonly used is because they are open. You can incorporate it with any other uh, network infrastructure design that you have, basically. It's open-ended. While the TACAX mostly are supported by our partners, which is Cisco. So that is why some people have never heard of it, some people have never used it. It's not open-ended, it's closed-ended and proprietary. Uh, Also, which transfer protocol did they use? The radius, of course, is the normally connectionless UDP, while the TACAX leverages on the commonly known TCP/IP. So uh, that's the case for this. The same thing that we have said basically. For connectivity, for the TACAX, of course, it connects to your radio server. It prompts you the username. You give the username. It validates you as the junior admin. It asks you for the password, validates your password. It either accepts or rejects. So that's basically what is happening behind the scenes, mostly for all of you that are logging into major items on your network. So it's the same thing, but if you can see, there's one major difference in terms of returning your access as junior admin. So you log in with your username directly as user admin without it first asking for both your username and your level as well. So, like I said earlier, it separates your authentication from your accounting, basically. Yes. So if you want to configure, for those that want to configure that, especially the application of enabling your global AAA, is to just allow, it's a command that you use, allow all AAA elements. Now, before you can actually use this particular command, you need to specify the server that will provide your AAA service. So you either choose the TACAX if you're using Cisco devices or radios if you're using other devices. Now, after you have chosen this, it will now allow you to configure the encryption key that is needed, which you have a lot of things to choose from. Uh, and then for redundancy, you can configure or follow the same process for more than one, basically. So just what I said now, if you can see from the screenshot and the command, it's we're adding a new model. In this case, we're adding a TACAX server called server T. Let's put it server T. Then we now use the IP address. What we wanted to do is a single connection, and we provide what is the password. Basically, that's it. Very simple processes that you can use. Now, same thing for the server, but you can see in this case, you don't need to, in this case, you need to give it the type of connection. You have to specify the specific server. While here, you just specify the server name, put the key, basically. That's it. Normally, a radio server, because it combines both authentication and authorization, it's a bit less difficult to configure than the TechX. So just to summarize this particular module, we have 2 more to go. So you can see that we might not have enough time, but I'll try my best. It's just to give you an intro to AAA authentication, authorization, and accounting, and how to configure both your local and server-based AAA, and also how you implement TACAX Plus and Radius protocols, basically. Yes, so new terms and commands that we have used. For those that want to go through it all over again. So, we want to go into firewalls. Yes, I'm just looking at some of the, if we have any issues before I proceed, to understand if we can be having practicals. Yes, please. Most of you are online based. We cannot be having practicals every week. So I've combined all the practicals to the end of the month, normally. So we have, for this particular network security, we have 4 weeks, 4 sessions. So on the 4th session is when we will combine, you use all the knowledge that you have learned and you use it for the practical. Please don't be coming to complain if you have not attended last week's lecture where I mentioned all this. These are one of the things that normally are a little bit, no, please, for Boluwatife, Babalura, you cannot do practicals on your phone. You need to install some few software that you can't do everything on your phone. You can either borrow somebody's laptop if you don't have one, or go to a cafe. At least just to do practice, 1 hour practice is okay. Per day, you can manage with that. You can install software on your phone, basically. So let me just see. This is quite a lot too, but I will try my best to, because we know more about firewalls. So I'll try to go a bit. Okay, I've seen it. Okay, so we want to actually look at ZPF. ZPF are just, it's not a complicated word, it's just zone-based policy for using firewall. So you have your own classic firewall, though it normally comes with your Cisco iOS or your whatever system that you're using, and then you can configure a zone-based policy. So you want to select a particular zone of your network that you want to configure a customized policy for the firewall. So there are several benefits of your zone ZPF. Again, I'll not be saying zone-based policy firewall all the time. So anytime you hear ZPF, I'm referring to the zone-based policy firewall. So it is actually not dependent on your ACLs. ACLs are access control lists that normally comes with your classic firewall. So your ZPF does not depend on that. So it goes a little bit further. That is why For those that want to do more research on the classic firewall that you have known since you started IT or networks, you can go and check. Firewalls are easy to understand. We're focusing on a specific aspect of the firewall. So you should know clearly that both virtual interfaces or physical interfaces that you can plug whatever into can also be grouped into zones in order to leverage it to use the ZPF. So if you want to design this, you have specific steps to follow. First, you need to determine which zone you want actually. So let's say within my network, I've chosen the zone that is used for security purposes, or I would say the zone that is being leveraged by all students in the lab. So you have a computer lab. I want to choose the zone of that computer lab. Let's use that as an example. So you've chosen that. All the traffic you should know that are bound going to that particular lab will have are subjected to that particular restriction that you will establish right now. So next is for you to define the sessions that the clients in that particular zone can request. So I will say all students that are having access within that lab will access only network resources related to uh, books that are on the network. That's all. Just ebooks that you can have access to. So after you have established both the zone and the sessions that you want, which is step two, next is for you to design the physical infrastructure, which is what we're going to be looking at. Now, you have to look at dictating the number of devices between the most secure and less secure. So you have to look at both ends of the spectrum, which is what we're seeing. And the next is to identify subsets within the zone in order to merge traffic requirements. So some people might want specific books that are not within that range that you might need authentication after. Some people might just need free books also. So this is an important consideration, please, because you have to put measures in place to implement because there are different subsets even within a particular zone. So this is what we're saying, basically. So the inside is your specific network, and then we have the internet as well, joined by your switch or router. Now, if you have a public server, like universities will have a public server, all public universities normally, and then you can either place it directly within the router or you place it in between both your internal network to the server and then between the server also with the network. All these types of designs are acceptable depending on your network design. That is why we're looking at it. So now you can see that we have placed two firewalls for redundancy in between also. Now, a complex firewall in this case, now you have a firewall between your access within your network through the internet, and you also have another server that is a firewall that is protecting your whole network as well. This is another design that you can explore. Depending, like I said, all these, why we're exploring all these is because all networks are normally, usually, quite different in terms of the complexity. So now, once you configure your ZPF, what should it do? It has to, whatever traffic that is coming, it needs to inspect each packet, basically. So let's say, for example, with the example that I've given, a student within the lab that we have chosen as our zone, he wants to access a book that is used by black hat hackers, for example. So what the network will do is it will inspect that request in terms of each packet. Then if it is not something that is allowed, it will drop it or deny within the ACLs itself. But if it's a book, for example, how to monitor or how to design networks that is allowed, then it will pass, which means it will permit it to go through. Is that clear? Basically, that is what you're configuring. It's either it will inspect and either drop it or pass it. That's it. Quite simple. So
In terms of the rules that you will have a set of rules that you have to configure. You have to look at the source interface of the zone. Let's say, because we're considering the lab for students, you have to look at the destination interface, which within the lab, where is it going to be accessing? So it's going to be accessing the network part of our between within our network that controls books, which are free books for students. That is your destination. So you need to know if that access is allowed, whether yes or no. If the policy that you have set in place within your ZPF is available, you have configured it or not. Then the results, whether it is allowed. So every packet needs to go through this particular life cycle. So let's start from the source. If it's from the lab, yes, it's from the lab. If it's going to the free book access, yes, it's going. Does the pairing exists? Yes, it exists. So we're using the second to the last line now. Uh, the policy exists? Yes, it exists. We're using the last line now. Then finally, if it inspects, should it pass or drop? Pass. This is just behind the scenes what is happening, basically. So it's the same also if you want to use the traffic for your self zone, which is your uh, router itself that includes all the IP addresses that are being specifically assigned to the router interfaces. So these particular rules that we have mentioned here, they actually depend on whether the router is the source or the destination. So it's the same process. So the source member of the zone, yes, we have it, is a self zone. The destination, yes, we have it. We have paired it, which is yes. Policy exists, yes. Result, pass. So I'm just reading one of the all scenarios that we have here. So all these things are different scenarios with different results. So basically what you're going to be doing, the practical is very easy. You have 5 steps to configure your ZPF. One is for you to create the zone, then you identify the traffic with the class map, uh, and then you define the action with your policy map. So all these maps are tools within your configuration that you're going to be using, which are actually easy to do. I'm going to provide the step-by-step for each lab that you're going to do. And then after that, you map to whatever zone that you have chosen to the policy. So it's like saying, okay, I've chosen the lab for students, like I've mentioned, and then the policy is going to be no access to uh, books that are not allowed, only free books. So it's just to map the two so that anybody that needs access from the lab to any free ebook you will have. Anybody that accesses from the lab for any book that is not allowed within that policy, it will deny. That is basically what we're doing. So creating zones, of course, you will see from the screenshot I've attached, uh, you will see you have to provide the zone security, then you specify the zone name. Here it will be, let's say, student lab. And then we'll make it private. We will exit that particular. Then we'll also add the public access as well for when you are having access from outside the lab, and we also configure that. Now, this is where we will actually create the class map policy just to identify which traffic and which traffic is going to be going to a specific policy. That is what we want to do now. So if you use match any, your packet must meet one criteria or so. If you use match all, then all the match criteria needs to be considered. So, for example, if I say in the student lab, anybody can access free labs or free ebooks in mathematics, science, cybersecurity, and data science. But I say nobody will have access to the books that are related to, let's say, uh, engineering architecture. You cannot have access to that. So if you use the match all, it will include both allowed and not allowed in order to compare with your request, basically. So that is just the difference. So, in terms of the access group, we have to specify. In this case, the example that I gave you, the ACL, which is access control list, will be specific only to the lab students lab that we have mentioned earlier. And now you can now match the protocol with a specific protocol. Uh, we use a policy map and then match it with your class map that we have identified. Basically. So this is an afterthought that you can do to add or in terms of inspection, drop or pass. So this is the main action that is going to occur. We have explained what inspect is. If you look at your request, so and take a decision between drop or pass. So this is where you specify it. I'm having some messages from who. Okay, so the same method comes with assigning zones to specific interfaces. You either assign it a private or public. That's just it. So this is the summary of everything that we have done that you can show. Uh, as you can see, we have gotten the protocol that we're going to be using, the class we're going to be using, the zones, which are public or private. This is just a summary of everything we have been using in terms of the interfaces that have been assigned to zones. So, like I said, you can always go through these particular steps and redo it in the practicals that we're going to be doing. Somebody has been sending me messages to help him with system specifications to buy. Please, this should be after the class, not during class. Please. So, of course, like I said, we're going to be using packet tracer. So you use it in your command line. So, a summary of what we have done to create zones, define actions with the policy map, assign zones to interfaces, and some new terms that you need to go through. So, for this, uh, I'm going to drop this particular lecture because this introduces, for those that don't have good background in firewall, you can go through this particular piece of uh, slide in order to know what is a firewall, what firewall does, what it is doing, because it's the basics. So we're not going through the extreme basics. What is an ACL? What is the benefit? So how to design or implement firewall. So we have done the hard part. This is just the basics for those that want to uh, have more knowledge on the basics of firewall, basically. So we managed to do this. Uh, So in this case, we have reached a point where we want questions. Any questions so far? I've seen some questions that are not really. Basically, what I would try to say is I know this is a bit more theoretical, but we try to encourage, as you have seen, I've tried to put practical sessions towards the end. I will repeat it again for those that have not listened. Let me share my screen again. Please, Awal, many people are complaining about attendance. Can you try to solve it for them? So somebody is asking, how do I start? Somebody that just joined now is asking, what is the main acronyms AAA and ZPF, which we have specifically said. Now, these are, as I will say, are not very encouraging for you to just jump in at any time. Habibu Ibrahim Key. If you don't even know what we have discussed, the basic of everything we have discussed today, just the meaning of the acronyms of AAA and ZPF, which we have shown clearly at the beginning. We have mentioned it over and over at the beginning. That means there is no hope for you understanding the rest of the things that we have discussed basically. So your only hope will be to maybe go through the lecture. Hopefully you'll understand something. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. So Mohammed Jamil Awalo, next time we know when you're still using Windows, it's not Linux. Because we are using Packet Tracer, which is software that is based on Linux. So please, I'm not going to answer any questions on your attendance or your dashboard or no. That is not for me to answer. So let me take a look at other questions. What software can we install in a laptop to be able to use the particle properly? Like I said, I will give you a particular link on practical setup, how to set up your VMs with Packet Tracer. So I will send it today, like I normally do. So today, after the class, after we've concluded, like I did last week, immediately after the class, I sent your quiz, I sent your uh, uploaded your all your materials just for you to log into the dashboard. For those that couldn't log in, I think some of your colleagues shared the Google Drive link with you. For me, I have to follow due process. I have to do it via the LMS. So it's just a link that you copy and paste basically to will redirect you to the Google Forms and your Google Drive for all the PDFs. Somebody is still asking, how do you access lecture materials? I'm not going to be answering all these. I will see them, but I'm not going to be answer. I'm not going to answer them. So you keep asking, which app are we using? Are you using? Please go and Google this network packet tracer. That is what we are going to be using for the security configurations on our network, basically. So very good. Some people are asking good questions actually, even though it's not within. It's very basic, Mr. Olusegun Adeyemo. What is the difference? Not different between DMZ and zone-based. So zone-based firewall protocols are actually protocols, firewalls that we normally configure to protect a specific area, while DMZs are demilitarized zones that we zone out of the network, normally containing critical assets that we have, so that we also apply specific policies of security to them. So, for example, in a university, you have to provide a DMZ for example, your finance office, your student results, your staff details for data protection. You have to be within, for example, your DMZ to give them special policies and protection. Is that okay? So they are quite different. Please, Collins Okonko, any issue that you have with VM, solutions are online. You either have the wrong hardware or you're doing some configurations wrong. Yes, so they have posted the link. Thank you for these ideas, for your attendance. So please follow it. Yes, thank you, Mohammed Isiaku Ibrahim, for answering that question. Khalil Yahya Harun, how do I understand that the IP address was found to zone? I don't understand that question. So, Joseph Ajayi Friday, what are the tools and software needed to set up a proper network security environment? I think these are, once you hear this kind of questions, it's you're rushing to the end. You want to go to the so-called promised land without, you want to drive a tanker without knowing how to drive bicycle, actually. So you have to take it process step by step. There are frameworks for network configurations on different operating systems, but you cannot use them until you know how to do the basics. So, what type of system are you supposed to buy? I mean, what you can afford, you can manage it. If you don't have enough space, you can always use a VM to manage, even though you can't run everything at the same time. So, yes. So, thank you, Enyoma Daniel. Please, for the lab, are we going to use Cisco VM for Kali Linux? For now, we're going to use Cisco VM, basically. Because why Cisco VM? Because it has everything included that you need. You don't need to install or go through different processes and have issues. Everything comes pre-installed. Once you correctly install the VM properly, you shouldn't have any issue, basically. So that's why. Yes, Simon Chinonso. Takat radios are used. Yes, there are projects in different types of networks. In fact, many large corporations use both, the combination of both. No, please, you have, oh my God, some people already have Kali Linux installed. Why not going to start using Kali Linux yet? It's good if you want to just go through it and use it, but it's a bit uh, not proper for you to. You will find it difficult to use. Yes, Israel is. You can use MacBook. I'm using MacBook, but I have three laptops, so I'm Windows has dual boot of Kali Linux Ubuntu. My Mac has Windows and Mac. So depending on what you can do actually. Mohammed Sanaib, I think you need to read the third particular PDF that I said I will send because you don't know the difference between firewall and a DNS. I mean, everybody in this class, I am going to assume that should know what DNS is, the domain name system, basically. So a DNS, every particular public IP that you have needs to have a DNS. It normally resolves whatever IP address that you have to give you a domain name. So let's say you have, what is your name again? MohammedSaniAyuba.com. That is, you already have an IP address that has been assigned for that particular uh, website that you have. So what resolves, instead of me seeing your 23.82.92.11, instead of me seeing that on my browser, I will see your name.com, Mohammed.com. So what resolves it? It's an assignment I'm giving you. Go and find out what resolves that IP address into your website name. That's where you find the meaning of GNS. Yes, Collins Okonko, I will give you not how to install VM. You can find that on Google immediately now, step by step. I'm going to give you steps on how to install the one that we're going to use, not all VM. Yes, like I said, for those that don't have laptop, you either borrow or you use somebody's own, or you go to, if you're in a local community that somebody within uh, doing this particular program has one, you go and meet him, you do the lab together. I mean, that's why you guys created all those major WhatsApp groups. Each country, each state has one. So go and meet somebody, or you go to the cafe where you can use public, or you go to the public area where computers are available. I mean, there are so many places that you can borrow your dad's own, even if it's office. At least use it to practice. Yes, Ahmed Yusuf, there's a guide for Cisco VM. We are going to use it. Yes, you're going to be using the Kali. It's good that you have it. This is, I'm referring to Can you hear me now? Effiong, innocent. That's why I said specifically. I knew that we will get this kind of question. He's asking what is the difference between firewall and router. Router is the device itself that performs routing functions and switching functions for your networking purposes. But the firewall itself is a security infrastructure services that is included inside that particular router or switch, basically. So I hope that is clear. That's why you need to, before you even take this class, you need to know the basics. We don't need to be going back to, but sure, that's why the questions are and answer area is for you to ask. So yes, I'm seeing many questions on attendance. I'm trying to look for Cisco VM is operating system like Kali Linux. No, they're not the same. Cisco VM is just a VM that you use to just practice networking tasks, basically. It's not a complete operating system. It's just a virtual machine for that. So this is for me to answer Samar Telecoms. Please, no need to be added into any WhatsApp group or anything. Just be within the Telegram. That's the major group. All other things are just secondary. So, actually, what I want to let me even check your next quiz is ready. I will send it immediately after this class. I've been trying. Let me try and see if I can share my screen. Okay, I will just give me 5 minutes. Let me try again to share my screen if it will work. This particular StreamYard. School security policies like inbound and outbound traffic. Port number. Oh my god, this is very, very basic. We can't be going into this basics. This is the ABCD of networking. We can't go what is port number, what is subnet, what is protocol. It's for you to do your own research on this basic actually. Adam Nali. These are you can't I would suggest nobody should enter cybersecurity if you don't know those basics, basically. There's no point entering cybersecurity directly because cybersecurity is a secondary field, not a primary field. It's a secondary field. Most people do this mistake just because the name is catchy and very attractive. You just want to join and become cybersecurity expert. You need to know all these basics before you join, basically. So those are one of the main issues that you will have. That's why many people don't actually succeed in cybersecurity. They will join because it's very attractive. You have heard it. Oh, this person is successful there. This person. I mean, if you don't know the basics, some of us do not have a background in computer science. It's a bit difficult for us to grab. So if you don't have background, thank you, Julie Skoka. If you don't have background, means you have to do extra and extra work than other people because you have to go back to the basics to catch up to where they are. Please, Julie. Adam Nali, you're still asking the same question again. And the hacking part, yes, that's what people just want the end. They don't want to go through. So I can't share my screen. I want to share something with you, a picture that will explain what I'm saying. Yes, I've seen the picture. Let me share it with all of you. All of you need to see this actually. It's very, very key. As the final thing we're going to discuss, I want to share it with you. Oh, well, have you disabled me sharing the screen? Okay, let me try and see if this one will share. Mhm.